So Robin, I'm a professional cellist. You know this because you made my cello. The thing is, people might think that if you're a professional cellist, that means you're some sort of an expert on basic maintenance, like changing strings. But the fact is, I actually don't change my strings that often. I would change my A and D string probably every 2 or 3 months. C's and G's once a year, if that. They last quite a long time. Good. But you change strings all the time.
All the time, yeah.
So you must have a really tried and tested technique that works really well for you.
I do, yeah. I think it's pretty bomb-proof.
Great.
It's very simple. It's a technique that's good for everybody. So I want to have everything ready and to hand. So all of the strings that are going to be used are on the table in easy reach, so I don't have to keep putting the cello down. I've got some soap to lubricate string grooves with, although a lot of players use soft graphite or soft pencil because they have that with them.
But is soap better then?
Most violin makers I know like to use soap because it's quicker and it's cleaner. And a bit of peg paste in case it's needed. I've also got a tuning device and a bridge gauge.
What do you think is the best way to hold a cello when you're doing this?
Yep. Well, as we're talking, I'm holding the cello in what seems to me the best way to hold a cello. The cello is standing on its end pin, which isn't out. It's just, and I'm holding it with my ankles in the lower bouts, and also with my knees in the upper bouts.
Okay, that's good, because actually I pretty much hold my cello like this when I'm changing my strings, but I've never thought about stabilising it with my ankles.
The big deal about this is that it completely leaves both hands free. We're very, very confident that nothing could go wrong. We're going to get on and change these strings now. I'll take off the A string first, and the big deal is I'm only going to take off one string at a time. When you take off all 4 strings, the bridge standing here is going to fall down. The tailpiece is going to start flopping around and damaging the varnish. The tail cord's going to be loose and it's got to go in the right place. For some cellos, the soundpost may even fall down. Everything is going to be disrupted, and the chances of getting everything back in the same place with the bridge standing up are somewhat diminished. We're going to start with the A string, and I want to take it off in a really controlled way. So as I unwind the string, I'm still pushing it in so that, we're not going to have everything popping out and flying everywhere. So we've got the A string off the cello, and before we do anything else, I'm going to rub some dry soap into the string grooves. I'm rubbing the soap across the string groove, and some powdery dry soap is getting lodged in there, and I'm just knocking off the excess. So it's super quick and it's very, very effective. Before we go any further, I'd really like us to go up to the workshop because it's quite difficult seeing into a peg box, but we've made a dummy peg box and we can look at how a string should theoretically go on a peg. We've made this little dummy peg box. It's much easier to see into than a real cello peg box. And so I'm going to go through a sort of an abstracted, hypothetical, idealized version of fitting a string. Working hard to get a nice clear kink into this string so that when I hook it into the hole, it's going to stay put. And I'm going to put 2 turns onto the peg, going towards the thinner side of the peg. And after we've got these couple of turns, I'm going to cross over. And the idea of doing this is that it actually really locks the string turns onto the peg and they're not going to slip. And now I'm going to move across the peg until the string is close to the peg box wall, but not actually touching. And this is where we would like the string to end up when the cello's in use. Just been upstairs and we've seen the abstract situation of how we would ideally like the string to go onto the peg. And now we're going to do it for real.
Okay.
The first thing I want to do is put a kink in the string, and that's going to control the amount of string that sticks into the peg and stop it from slipping. The problem we've got is that there are 3 other strings all in the way, and so I need to retract the peg a little bit in order to get access to the hole that I want to push the string into. So now I'm ready to put the string into the peg hole. As soon as I've got that string in, I can actually now start pulling on this string to keep everything in control, and start winding the string onto the peg towards the narrow end of the peg. I want 2 turns on there before I cross over. Now I'm ready to cross over, and all the time I'm turning, I'm pushing the peg into the peg box. And I want to put a few turns on here until I think the string is approximately the right length for putting the ball of the string into the tailpiece. So the string is wound onto the peg. I've been keeping the tension on it so that it doesn't make a mess in the peg box. And now I'm stretching the string out to make sure there's no twist in it. And I'm all ready to hook the ball of the string onto the claw of the tailpiece adjuster. Now I still want to keep the tension on and get the string to go into the bridge groove. My left hand is keeping tension on the string. The string is in both grooves, the bridge string groove and the string groove at the nut. And now I can get the slack up onto the peg. Now we've got this string on the cello. It's all in its string grooves, but there's no real tension on it. We're certainly sure it's nowhere near pitch. You observed earlier that I have a peculiar technique.
You really do. I've never seen anyone do it like this before. Can you explain what you do and how you do it? And
Okay,
why?
so the reason I tune A strings like this is I've seen people break them. I've observed that people have trouble transferring the timbre from a tuning fork or another instrument to the A string. Maybe not professional musicians, but some other people do. So my technique is to get my A in a way you can hear it nicely, and then pluck that A on this string because it's really flat. About right. Once I can hear that sound, I know I can find it again. Really, really confidently. We're going to just observe how the bridge is standing on this cello with the bridge gauge. And this fits on the center line of the fingerboard, halfway between the D and the G string. This bridge gauge is fitting correctly. It's really flush with the top of the bridge. I can slide my thumb over here and it all feels smooth. If changing strings had pulled the bridge forward, then when we come to try with our bridge gauge, it won't slide down, it won't be flush, it's sticking up, and it's actually a very sensitive indicator.
So where do you get a bridge gauge from? Where can I get one of these?
Right, so this is something I make for people whose cellos I look after, but any violin maker could make one of these.
But it is, I suppose the most important point there is that is specific to that individual instrument.
Absolutely, they have to be tailor-made. And of course, if the bridge warps or something, then, this gives the opinion, if you like, changes. So sometimes, I make fresh ones just to make sure that it's relevant to that cello, that bridge, on this date, with this sound adjustment. It's very sensitive.